What's happening with Fauci? I know you've been gone for a couple of days. Where are you standing on Fauci? Because I bet it's not the same place I'm at.
I just don't care. I don't know why we're so obsessed with the guy. I'm bored with Fauci, frankly. But he's a guy that doesn't have any power of his own on his own. So his power comes from the media largely.
Yes,
now, of course, Biden has empowered him, to make. I mean, he can't make policy, right? He can't. He is not in a position to make policy. So the fact that he comes out and makes dumb recommendations on MSNBC every 3 days is not all that interesting to me. But I do understand why it's important to understand because of his general media influence and the positions he's been given by the last couple of administrations in that sense. It is important to understand where his head was at the time.
I think it goes deeper than that. Are you familiar with Christian Andersen?
Yes.
And what's happened with this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
the scientist.
So let me give a rundown of this. He is a virologist. His name is Christian Andersen. He wrote to Dr. Fauci responding to an article titled Mining Coronavirus Genomes for Clues to the Outbreak's Origins. Fauci told Andersen, quote, "It's of interest to the current discussion." Andersen replied, "Some features do look engineered. I should mention that after discussion earlier today, Eddie, Bob, Mike, and myself all find the genome inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory." So in other words, what he's saying here, and he was a big guy on It Came from the Lab at the beginning, Christian Andersen, big guy on Came from the Lab, it had to, because of evolutionary theory, which means it started someplace, it got into bats, then bats passed it to another animal, and then another animal passed it to humans, and it changes every time to make it easier. Well, this one went from supposedly bats to humans. Rare, not impossible, but rare. But then they started looking at it, and they started seeing markers that were not evolutionary. They were spliced in. It appeared that it was spliced in
all of the most convenient places if it was going to be engineered through like a gain of function research type of situation.
Correct. Correct. So he said COVID-19 appears to be manipulated in a lab. That's when Fauci says, "Hey, we need to talk soon. I'll call you." The next day, Fauci sent an urgent email to his deputy with the subject line, "Important." And he wrote, "Hugh, it's essential that we speak this morning. Keep your cell phone on. Read this paper as well as the email I will forward. You have tasks today that must be done." We don't know what those tasks were. Maybe it was just, "Hey, I need some more soap." The document attached was the SARS gain of function PDF. So right after one of Fauci's trusted scientific advisors suggests COVID-19 could be man-made, while Fauci and associates dismiss the possibility as a conspiracy theory, he shot a research paper concerning the gain of function research, which Fauci was funding at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, to his deputy. 8 weeks later, Andersen reverses course. He writes a paper calling into doubt whether COVID-19 was engineered. He didn't rule it out, but he made the apparent consensus earlier muddy. Now, it's interesting because just a couple of months later, Andersen would receive the first installment of a 5-year grant of nearly $2 million per year. The guy who had been receiving the NAI funding in the past, Peter Daszak, he was funding the Wuhan lab. He also received $1.5 million. Daszak has been rigorously trying to claim that the lab leak possibility is nothing more than a conspiracy theory. In fact, he actually emailed Dr. Fauci to thank him for helping shooting all that down. And I'm sure the funds that he was directing to the Wuhan lab had nothing to do with gain of function. Oh, yes, it did. Christian Andersen has also come out publicly on Twitter attempting to put doubt in the lab leak theory. Remember, the theory that was the consensus among him and his peers back in January 20th. He's been on a Twitter crusade using the platform to sow lab leak doubt. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Over the weekend, Anderson's tweets before March 7th of this year began to disappear. Over 5,000 of his tweets are gone. Then when people started saying, hey, he's erasing his history, something else disappeared. His entire blue check Twitter account. Now, smoking gun, you got a lot of things that look bad, but is it a smoking gun? I don't know. I do know that Barack Obama outlawed the gain of function. He said no money is to go to that. Fauci made sure money, after Trump was elected, money went to the gain of function, but is denied that any of that money went to gain of function. He said, I gave it to these people, and what they did with it, I'm not really sure. I mean, I wasn't saying bull crap. He was for gain of function. He has been for gain of function research, and he is for other labs doing it. He was for the Wuhan lab doing it. By the way, your dentist has about the same kind of security as the bioweapons level 2 lab had in Wuhan.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that. Now it's a game. Who's going to talk first? Go ahead.
Okay. So Fauci in 2000, I think it was 2012, had an opinion paper where he basically outlined that he understood the huge risks of this. Our own Tyler Cardin here at the Blaze, who's a great follow on Twitter as well, hit this long before it was being reported in the conservative media. And he put the study out there, and that study showed that Fauci was he was aware of the dangers of this and was worried about it, and still wound up directing funds to an organization that was directing funds to gain of function research in Wuhan. It is look, there's a lot to question here, I think, and as you point out, there's not like a smoking gun. But there is, like you want to know what is the reason for the switch in opinion. It could be, right, that the scientists had an opinion early on and saw expanded information and believes that their initial opinion was wrong. I mean, that does happen. But it also,
and it's
you wonder why.
It's also just a coincidence that he got 5 years of funding in his first installment of $2 million. Just a couple of months after, being on record over and over and over again, saying that that's not true. It also could be that Dr. Fauci had no idea that EcoHealth Alliance had funneled $600,000 to the Wuhan Institute of Virology to study coronaviruses in bats, something that Fauci wanted desperately to happen, which is weird because it was his group that gave EcoHealth Alliance the $600,000 to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I mean, I think the guy is, if we lived in a world where justice actually happened, I think this guy might end up in jail. Because I think he has lied to the American people over and over again, and I think there was a big cover-up on this. That's my opinion. We'll watch to see what happens, and unfortunately, in the old days, you would have to wait for the media to do it. Well, thanks to you, places like the Blaze Media and others are on the case, and we don't wait around for them anymore.